Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is a monthly special. We're going to try and do these at least one or twice a month, where we're going to go into more specific, more visual, showing you how to set up tools or services or WordPress plugins. I've got my special guest, Haroon from Happy Cloud, who works with WP-Tonic regularly. He's a bit of a genius on all of this. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the right tools and services if you're looking to send out bulk email marketing campaigns. The differences between different types of email sending services. We're going to do a big dive. You should get some fantastic value from it. Haroon knows his stuff. So Haroon, would you like to give us a quick 30-second intro about yourself and what you do?
Certainly. Thank you, Jonathan, for the very flattering introduction. And so I've been working in the tech ecosystem for the past 23 years and with WordPress specifically for around, it's been over 15 years, roughly. So been there, done that in terms of implementing very advanced, complex solutions using WordPress, scaling, optimization, and what's not just possible by simply installing a plugin. So that's where I specialize. And in my experience building sites with clients, one pain point was like they've got the site up and running. Now, how do they reach their target audience? So that's where today's topic really comes in.
Yes, and Haroon helps WP-Tonic with the more complicated website developments, especially around marketing automation and Buddy Boss. That's where he normally helps us. Like I say, in the first half of the show, we have to see how it goes, but we're going to be covering the differences between email and account, bulk email, types of bulk email, transactional, promotional, opt-in receipts, cold receipts, and much, much more. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of the show, I've got a couple of messages from our sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back, folks. Before we go into this great show, I also like to point out we've got some great special offers from the sponsors, plus a curated list of the best WordPress plugins and services. You can find all these goodies by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals. wp-tonic.com/deals. It'll save you a load of time crawling the internet trying to find the best solution. Plus you can save some money. What more could you ask for from a show? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from me today. So before we go into a long list of things that we need to discuss, maybe we can have a quick discussion about the major things and principles, maybe the main things you think confuses people around this subject, Haroon.
Yes. From the very start, like from the very basics, many people mix up the use of email accounts with bulk email. They think that just the way they have an email account, a business email account that they use for day-to-day interactive emails that they type in using an email client and send and reply when they receive an email, bulk email works similarly, or using same accounts. It does not. In fact, to send bulk emails, you don't even need an email account. You just need a domain and the right tools. So the confusion starts from the very, very foundation of the way people understand email, because the non-technical users don't understand email the way it's meant to be understood for bulk campaigns. And then there are going to be lots of topics like difference between transactional email and promotional email, and the do's and don'ts of transactional and promotional emails, the technical as well as strategic, non-technical strategic things to look out for to ensure that your email reaches the user's inbox, and also delivery and deliverability. So the two are not the same. One basically signifies whether your email actually ended up being accepted by the recipient's email servers at all, and the other is more about where in the recipient's email account hierarchy did it land. Did it land in the inbox? Did it land in the promotions area? Did it land in spam? So all of that. And then there are the tools and services. So we're going to cover all of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the way I try and explain it to people is with WP-Tonic's hosting, we provide one inbox email functionality if required. If you need multiple, that's the basic difference. If you're looking for email inbox functionality, that's how I say it to people. And like I say, you get one email with WP-Tonic for one inbox. If you need multiple inboxes, we have a recommended list of providers that can offer that functionality. But a lot of hosting providers or a lot of people have caused a lot of confusion because there's a lot of plug-in services that say you can utilize the email service that comes from your hosting provider to send email. And strictly that is true to some very strong limitations, such limitations that make it in real world circumstances not that true, because most hosting providers will put a strict daily limit on the amount of email you can send out. That limit covers normal inbox functionality, but for transactional or especially marketing email, it will cripple your ability to send marketing email. And if you try and overgo those limits, your hosting provider will probably normally kick you off their hosting or give you some warnings. And then if you continue to do it, in the end, they will kick you off. And because of the type of setup, it hasn't got any real benefit for you anyway, because the servers that they're utilizing aren't meant for marketing emails. So a lot of your email won't get into the inbox of people anyway. Would you agree with the basic outline I've just done?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. That I take great encouragement there, because Haroon's much more of an expert than I am on this particular subject. Let's go. So we've had our quick introduction. So let's go into the first subsection: differences between email accounts and bulk email. I suppose I've covered that to some degree, but is there any extra detail that you want to put on the kind of broad way I described it?
Yeah, you have pretty much covered it at a broad level. In fact, let me put up my screen as well so that I can have access to or everyone can see the slides. So I'll just share my screen and let's see.
Yep.
So yeah, we've covered the difference between day-to-day business email and bulk email. And then among bulk email, so day-to-day business email we've already covered. Those are the email accounts that you have, the inboxes you have. And then there's bulk email. Bulk email is primarily of two types. One is transactional and one is promotional. Transactional emails are let's just cover them one by one. And then among promotionals, there are emails sent to opt-in recipients, those who have actually chosen to receive email from you by giving you consent, by actually providing you with their email addresses. And then there are cold recipients. That's basically cold outreach, where people don't expect you to email them because they haven't given consent or provided you with emails. And there are promotional emails sent to cold recipients as well. So we're going to cover those as well and see what sort of cold email campaigns could constitute as spam and which are okay. So let's get to it, shall we?
Yeah, let's go into that.
All right. So transactional emails have the primary purpose of providing or requesting information relevant to business operations. And this is often, well, not always, but often information critical to the use of the service by the user. They are sent to customers or employees usually. Almost always they are either sent to the organization's employees or to customers. And by customers, they don't just have to be paying customers. They could be like a free user of a service that have signed up for an account. So in one way or the other, either they're paying in form of money or they're paying in form of their usage statistics, their data. So they are customers in one way or the other. And these are triggered by some sort of action, which is most often action taken by the user who then receives the email based on that action. One example is, let's say you've registered an account on a service and you've forgotten your password, and then you go in the forgotten password recovery system and you provide your email address, and then they send you an email with a link to reset your password. That email is a transactional email triggered by user action. There may be other transactional emails. For example, you purchase a product and the purchase receipt you get, that is like as literally a transactional email as it can get, because you've just made a literal transaction on the website by purchasing a product, and you've received email in response to that transaction. These are almost always sent automatically by computers behind the scenes. There isn't any person triggering them from the sender's side.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly interrupt. With the Membership Machine show, we have emphasis on membership, Haroon, and this really applies because this is when somebody, a lot of like LearnDash or Lifter LMS or Buddy Boss, which are the main WordPress plugin providers that we work with, when somebody finishes a course or somebody buys a course or finishes something on the website membership platform, the message, the email that's sent out is classified as a transactional email. I am correct about that, Haroon, am I not?
Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
I'm doing well here, Haroon, aren't I?
You've been in the game for quite a while, and you have a very clear understanding of all the concepts.
Right, there we go. You're not going to get on my best side by saying that, but I do appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to clarify that.
That was a very good example. Thank you for sharing that. And next we come to promotional emails. Their primary purpose is to promote businesses, products, and or services or people, like in case of influencers, in case of authority figures. But hey, that person is a business. So yeah, overall business, product, or service promotion emails, although they might not be phrased like an advertisement, they might be phrased like an infomercial, providing information, but there are plugs of a product or service or a brand or something or the other in that email, and the purpose is to get that promoted. Hence the name promotional emails. They are like you start off with sending them to prospects, sending them to leads, sending them to people you think might be interested in what you want to sell them. But in cases, they are also sent to existing customers who might have product A and you think you want to sell them product B, or you want to let them know about your other range of offerings. So they could be sent to prospects or existing customers. They are almost always sent in bulk because it's not easy to sit down and write a personalized email to send it to every single one of your prospects or customers. They are composed manually using specialized tools, and then you hit send, and that tool utilizes a sending service to deliver that email to all the recipients on the list. They are often sent on a schedule. So you could have like a stream, a series of scheduled emails that would be sent. Let's say someone signs up for a newsletter. As soon as they sign up, they receive the first email. Then after 7 days, they receive the second one. 7 days afterwards, they receive the third one, and so on, as in a funnel. Someone else signs up a couple of days later. Then the 7-day break cycle starts for them based on when they signed up. So they're sent on either a schedule, or at times you might have an event coming up. You might have a special promotion coming up, and you'd want to notify all of your leads and customers of that special promotion. So you might just compose a previously non-scheduled ad hoc blast that you want to just send right away, or schedule it as a one-off blast rather than previously organized series of emails. So there's that. And in most jurisdictions like the EU, and now increasingly so in many US states and in Canada, in many of these jurisdictions, consent of the recipient is mandatory for you to send them these emails in bulk. If you don't have their permission and you just start sending them emails in bulk, then that's going to get your reputation into trouble, your email delivery reputation into trouble. So you want to avoid that.
Well, I knew about the European side. Obviously, it doesn't affect, obviously, I come from England, folks, but I live on the west coast of America in Nevada. I was aware California were putting increasing restrictions. Yes. This is a whole murky area, really, because I get a lot of emails sent to me, which I'm pretty sure I haven't signed up for. I'm not too bothered as long as they give me a clear way of unsubscribing. I'm not that bothered by it. But there's also, I don't know if you want to go down this route, Haroon, because it's a little bit off topic. So if you want to leave it till next week or something, I've got no problem. I was just wondering, because you've also got these services now that utilize Gmail. They set up multiple Gmail accounts, I understand, or Outlook accounts, and they send batches of email through multiple Gmail or Outlook accounts, and you sign up for it, and that supposedly guarantees that the email will get into the inbox. And that seems, and they seem to be pushed a lot by a lot of influencers on YouTube around marketing and business development. They seem mostly, these services seem to be aimed at the business to business market. Am I going off topic? If not, maybe you can give your quick view of those. And is this still a very grey area, basically, this whole area?
So firstly, you're not going off topic because this is very relevant. And while some may consider it a gray area, I consider it black and white. If you're trying to circumvent your agreement with any service provider to, like, for example, you can't send bulk emails from one Gmail account. You're circumventing your terms of service with Google to get 20 Gmail accounts through a third-party provider and using them to send 20 times as many emails as you could with one email account. Well, they're all you. Like, you know it's you. The one offering you that service knows it's you. So I mean, it's black and white for me.
Because am I correct that Gmail, similar to the hosting providers, I think it's a limit of 250 email a day. Is that correct?
Roughly. Yes, roughly. From free accounts, I think it's 200-ish. And then the G Suite accounts, it used to be G Suite, now it's Google Workspace. They're
always changing their name, aren't they?
Yes. First it was Google Apps, then G Suite, now Google Workspace. So they provide, I think, slightly higher limits, but not enough for any notable bulk email campaigns. But then there's another thing that people do. Such providers, such gray area or black area, black hat service providers, what they do is they offer you a service in which they warm up your domain for bulk sending. They build your domain's reputation because they have a pool of, let's say, 50,000 Gmail accounts. They use your domain to, like, those 50,000 could not be just Gmail. They could be Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, and some ISP-based email addresses, some hosting-based email addresses. So they have control over, let's say, 50,000 email accounts. You hire them for the service. They use your domain to send newsletter blasts to those 50,000 accounts in their control. And from those accounts, they have bots, so they have some sort of setup to interact with those emails, to open those emails, to click links in those emails at a rate that tells Google that you are a legit business sending legit campaigns, which are doing well because users are interacting with them. So that way they build your domain sending repetition so that once you start sending your own email blasts, Gmail thinks you're a legit sender with a well-built repetition. Because otherwise, you start, like, even if you have the best email infrastructure to send out emails, from a new domain, let's say day one, you start sending out big blasts to 50,000, 100,000 users, lists, huge lists. You're not going to get in their inboxes because that's a metric that email service providers use to detect spam, because spammers generally used to do that. They'd register a new domain, send a blast to 100,000 users, get the domain banned from email providers the next day. But hey, on day one, they got their mission accomplished. They reached 100,000.
Yeah, the reason why I'm bringing this up, Haroon, because I know we're going off subject a little bit, is that there's a couple of people I follow that are seen as influencers in the email sending area. And there's a couple. There's multiple services that use Gmail and Outlook, and you have to purchase domain names. But there's another service. I'm not going to name names. Because I can't remember them. But there's another service that you can utilize and purchase domain names through them, and they manage the domain names, and they have an API that links to a couple of these services. But I think these services are really aimed at those that are doing business-to-business outreach, getting people's contact details from scraping various online resources. I don't think they're aimed at kind of business-to-consumer level but I think the thing that I was getting, I understand, is this middle ground, because if you've got a really big list, you've probably, it's either cost you a lot of money or cost you a lot of money and time to build it. So I'm talking about which is most people are in, I would say between 500 and maybe 2,000, 5,000 realm. I would say 90% of the customers at WP-Tonic are between 500 and 5,000 emails if they've got an email list. First of all, would you agree with that? And I would still say you still need, we provide it at WP-Tonic, but if you're not using a service like WP-Tonic, you're going to have to utilize our external service, something like MailChimp, which I don't particularly like, or something similar, or you're going to have to utilize a WordPress if you're utilizing WordPress. Am I on target there, or am I waffling a little bit, Haroon?
You are on target, and I've got recommendations for the sort of niche. You mentioned the 500 to 5,000 subscriber niche, and for bigger niches as well. Well, not niches, bigger lists, if you will. So we're going to cover all of that in the later part of this topic.
Right. So
yeah, you're on spot.
Rightio. I think it's a good spot to go for our half-term break, folks. It's like Harry Potter. We're going to go for our first half break here. Would you agree, Haroon? It's a good place to go. Yep. Right. So we're going for our break, folks. We've got a couple other messages from our sponsors. We will be back in a few moments. See you soon, folks. We're coming back, folks. I just want to point out, if you're looking to a great hosting provider for your membership website or your community focus website on WordPress, why don't you look at utilizing WP-Tonic services? We provide fantastic hosting that's specifically optimized for those that have a membership or a Buddy Boss community website. Plus, we offer email functionality, transactional and marketing, plus a suite of plugins. I've been told regularly by our clients that they just can't believe the value. They think there's something a bit iffy because we offer so much as part of our packages. But it's just great value, folks. So we'd love you to become part of the family. Go over to wptonic.com, see what we offer, and you can also book a chat with me or part of my team. We'd love you to come on board. So on we go on this ramble. Well, I'm not sure good. I'm contributing much. I think I got us off topic a little bit, but I think Haroon knows me. We're friends that he could abruptly put me back onto track. So let's go on this journey. So spam and why to avoid, so what is, this is the other thing. What is spam? How do you
define it?
Yeah. How do you define it?
So it's pretty easy, actually. If you send unsolicited email to someone like you want to promote your service to a business, you find the email address of their director, you compose an email, you send it to them. That's perfectly okay. That's not spam. On the other hand, you send bulk email to a list that you've acquired, and they expect emails from you. It's not spam. But you combine the two. You send unsolicited email in bulk. There you go. That's spam.
Where's the legal?
This is the legal definition. Like any unsolicited email sent at an individual level, composed individually and sent to someone for a solicitation when they're not expecting it, they haven't signed up for it, is perfectly fine. That's just business development outreach, as long as you're doing it and on a one-on-one customized individual level. But the moment you start using an automated software to send it to a list of those who haven't signed up for that list and who are not expecting any emails from you with promotions, then that by definition becomes spam. So any bulk email sent not to a list you've acquired with consent and not to a list that has that is expecting emails from you, and that by definition becomes spam. And it's illegal in most jurisdictions. There is an exception to the illegality in non-GDPR regions. That exception is if someone who's already a customer and you have their email address, then sending them a promotional email, even if they haven't categorically given you consent. In many jurisdictions, that is not considered spam because they are your customer already and you're communicating with a customer rather than someone unknown, someone who knows nothing about you. Also, people who may have inquired about your business in one way or the other at some point in time, even if they haven't given you consent to receive emails from you, if you're not in a GDPR region, or the new California rules and some other states are either in the process of implementing those rules or considering those rules. So if you're out of those regions, then it's not considered spam to send bulk emails to people who have inquired about you. But people to whom you're a completely unknown entity, sending bulk emails to them to promote anything is spam.
What about, I'm just going to give you a couple grey, I think might be grey areas just to get your response, right? Let's say you're doing a lot of your business to business and you're doing a lot of requesting connections through LinkedIn, and you're doing it a while and you've got a good response from your outreach and you've got a lot of people that have agreed to connect with you through LinkedIn. So I'm not sure if LinkedIn has stopped this, but you used to, anybody that agreed to connect to you, you could actually export them in a spreadsheet with their emails. Are you, the legality, could you, by them agreeing to connect with you through LinkedIn, would you have the right to import that into an email platform and then email them?
So simply because of connecting over social media, no. But if they have initiated inquiry about the services you offer or the products you sell, if they have inquired about your business, then yes. And that again is only outside of the regions that categorically require consent. This is an exception not applicable to regions that categorically require consent, like GDPR. GDPR absolutely categorically requires consent. Inquiry does not imply consent. Being a customer does not imply consent over there, and let alone being connected over social media. And I think LinkedIn has stopped offering that service to
Yes.
export a list of the email addresses, at least stopped offering it to the regular plans. Maybe they do offer it to one of their premium plans to some limited
I don't
extent,
actually
but
know.
I doubt it.
So the same so you would apply the same to Facebook or any of these social media
Yes.
platforms?
Yeah. Yes. They've
Right.
stopped allowing you access to customers' email addresses to view them anyway, because it has been abused to send spam like nothing else.
The other thing is, as I mentioned in the first half of the show, these services, I had some this morning that are obviously utilizing these Gmail services because they had their name at the bottom of it. And the reason why I find them even more annoying, because often they don't have a unsubscribed functionality. I suppose they can't have that because they're using Gmail to send it. I don't know. I presume because I find that more annoying. Or they put in a line, if you don't want to receive these email, please put this in a reply back. I find that more annoying than somebody email me out of the blue, but at least at the bottom they've got an unsubscription, and I just unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm right in my annoyance?
Oh, yes. And there's also a dark side to it. Many of them, like the ones who are sending these emails not through a proper legitimate setup of a proper bona fide system to send them to like build a repetition over time. Those who just want to spam you and get the maximum out of it they can. And so with them, many of them use a fake unsubscribe link as well, or tell you to reply to that email with a stop word as well, because that confirms to them that, hey, you're someone who has opened that email, read it, and bothered to do something, bothered to take an action. So even if you've sent stop, even if you've clicked an unsubscribe link, that confirms that at this inbox, there's a real person who actually reads and interacts with emails that are even spammy. So there you go.
So you would recommend, not even if it's got unsubscribed, would you just recommend to either delete it or mark it as spam?
Mark it as spam. Yes, mark it as spam is way better than just deleting it. Any email that you deem as spam, first mark it as spam so that your email service provider knows that this email was spammy, and then periodically delete your spam, like empty your spam folder as well. Right. Don't directly delete it.
Right, on to the next one.
All right.
The do's and don'ts of bulk email to land in your inbox. Only a slight topic.
Mm-hmm. So first, the do's. You should send promotional emails only to subscribers. You should not promotional bulk emails only to subscribers. You want to reach out to some businesses for potential business development on an individual basis, then reach out to them as a person reaches out to a person, sit on a computer, compose an email to them, point out to them how your business can help them, address a real person at that organization, do your background research, get to learn about their problems and present them with a use case, with a proper case of how you can provide them with a solution, and do it individually for business to business. That's the legit way. Do not start sending bulk emails to non-subscribers by capturing a list. And also the definition of subscribers. Let's say you have two businesses or you manage two businesses for other people, and people have signed up, or let's say, leave alone management. Let's say you own two businesses. You are the legitimate owner of those two businesses. One is one sells carpets. The other one is a coffee shop. So those who have signed up for receiving promotional emails from the coffee shop, you cannot just go about exporting that list from the coffee shop's email list system, importing it into your carpet vendor store's email system, and start spamming your carpets to them, because those are not your subscribers. Those are subscribers of the coffee store business. You have two different e-commerce stores under two different businesses. Customers of one don't automatically give you a free ticket to start promoting your other businesses' products and services to them, unless you do it in the same newsletter. You can't just export a list from newsletter A and bring it into the newsletter system of a different business altogether and start using it as that business's list. So subscribers are subscribers of the business for which they signed up. Next, you have to clearly state, make it clear that it's marketing email when you send it to the exceptions. Now, exceptions that we covered were either customers or people who have inquired about your services. So in the jurisdictions where these exceptions are allowed, when you send a promotional email to those exceptions, you have to clearly state that as a marketing email, so that it's not misleading in any way. Build your mailing list transparently. Don't add people to that list who you just assume might be interested. Give people a system of adding themselves to the list. Instead of adding them directly to list, try to reach out to them with the ads, with some sort of campaigns. Try to reach out to them at events. Try to reach out to them on social media, and have them, direct them to a landing page, bring them to a landing page where you can capture their email address with a consent, where they can subscribe to your newsletter, so that you have a transparently built list. Include relevant subject and physical address. Including the physical address of a business in the footer of your bulk emails is a requirement by most jurisdictions. And including relevant subject ensures that your emails aren't clickbaity. It's not like someone clicks through to expect a huge discount and finds that, hey, you've just used that discount offer in the subject line to make them click, and inside the email it's like that discount is not available, or any sort of misleading practice, any sort of practice that might not be considered ethical, moral, or honest, if you will. So there's that, and then include the unsubscribe link at the bottom. That is very that is pretty much essential, so that you let those who have signed up also opt out. Because if you don't let them opt out, it's not like once they've signed up, they're in for life. They'll always have to receive your emails. They should have the option to choose to opt out. And then let's take a brief look at some of the don'ts. Don't use, so I'll have to elaborate on the first part a bit before I move on to the next. So pretty much every programming language has a mailing function that is just often mail parentheses, or it's just a part of code of a programming language to send out an email. And if you just use your language's basic mailer function, and your server on which your application is running, on which your site is installed, doesn't provide an interface for that mailing function to actually send out that email from that computer, then it is very likely that the email will not even leave that computer. Also, if it leaves that computer, the receiving system, the receiving email system of your recipient, it will identify the agent, the system that has sent that email, and it will not find certain matrices, certain parameters, certain headers that are present with the proper system emails, the system that's meant to send bulk emails or that's meant to send emails compared to a simple command from a programming language. So avoid directly using your programming language's basic mailer. Next, there are open SMTP servers out there. You just Google for open SMTP relays and they'll let you use their SMTP server to send emails without any authentication. So an open relay is one that doesn't require authentication. These emails sent from these open relays are also rejected by Gmail, by Yahoo, by Outlook, by most email service providers. When they receive an email that they know is coming from a recognized open SMTP relay, they're not going to even put it in spam. They're going to reject it right away. Thirdly, don't send to harvested or purchased addresses. Again, we're talking about bulk emails. You can send individual emails to harvested addresses if you think that's going to be a good business development practice for you, and it works out for many people. But if you send bulk emails to harvested or purchased addresses, that's spam. That's as spammy as it gets. Don't spoof the from field, the mailed by field, or the signed by field. These fields, these are headers that basically describe the sender, the type of encryption in the message, the type of system used to actually send the message. So if you use incorrect information in these, especially in the from address, let's say you are sending from your Gmail account and you pretend to be Elon Musk at Tesla.com. The receiving system will know that, hey, you're not Elon Musk at Tesla.com. You are, let's say, Jack at gmail.com. So they will reject that email and they will mark you as a spammer. They might ban your IP address for trying to pretend to be Elon Musk. So they might, like if it's not Gmail, if it's some other service behind the scenes, like your own domain, they might ban that domain. That you have this domain xyz.com and you're pretending to be from tesla.com. So don't spoof any of those fields. Don't send without providing an unsubscribe option. And there's one unsubscribe option is the unsubscribe link at the bottom. Another is a header that goes with the email that lets email clients directly unsubscribe. You don't have to scroll down to an email's bottom to find the unsubscribe link. Gmail gives you an option to unsubscribe. Many other email clients also give you an option to unsubscribe. So they detect that there's an unsubscribe option embedded in the letter using a technical implementation of an unsubscribe header. You should provide that as well. And don't send empty or null messages, because empty or null messages are sent even like legitimately as well for testing purposes. But they're often also sent to test if a mailbox exists at that address. There are spammers who have a huge list and they want to know how many of those addresses are still legit, how many of those addresses are still valid. So they might just send an empty campaign from some IP address, from some open relay, from some method to try to determine which of those addresses are valid, because valid addresses, when they sell that list of valid addresses, it fetches a higher price. So avoid these. A few best practices. These are the absolute do's, absolute don'ts, a few best practices. And more of these best practices are over time coming part of the absolute do's as well. Authenticate your sending server via an SPF record. An SPF record basically is a text record that you add to your DNS, to your domain's DNS, in which you specify that this domain allows which IP addresses or which host names to send email on its behalf. For example, let's say I'm using an email sending server on a server with IP address of 1.2.3.4. So if I have added the SPF record to allow, if I've added the SPF record to my domain to allow 1.2.3.4 for sending emails on my domain's behalf, then the recipient can be sure that someone who has control over this domain has allowed this IP address to send emails. But if you use the IP address 1.2.3.4 to send emails pretending to be Elon at Tesla.com, when they look up the SPF record of Tesla.com, they won't see 1.2.3.4 allowed over there. So they'll get a signal that, hey, Tesla.com allows only 2.3.4.5 to send email addresses on its behalf. And here's an email pretending to be from Tesla.com coming from 1.2.3.4. So that's fishy. So that's one signal, one bad signal that you don't want to give out. So having a valid SPF record is extremely important. Secondly, sign your messages with a valid DKIM record for the domain. So a DKIM record is basically encryption. I'll try to put it as simply as possible.
Yeah.
So what DKIM does is it generates two keys. One is a private key, which can be used to encrypt information from your email from the sending server. And then there's a public key that you published on your DNS that could be used to decrypt that encrypted part. So let's say your private key is used to encrypt the subject line of the email and the first 10 characters of the body. Like that's a chunk picked at random, let's say from your email when you send it, and DKIM is implemented. So with DKIM, the private key would be used to encrypt that part of the data of your email into a string that is then included in the email. Now, when the receiving server receives that email, it checks that there's DKIM information in the email. It looks up the DKIM record for your domain. There it finds the public key that can be used to decrypt that string of information. When it decrypts it, it will also, the decrypted information would tell it, hey, this was encrypted from line X to line Y from the email, plus the subject line. So compare it with that. If the comparison is like accurate, that means the decryption was done correctly. That means it's the correct key pair. That means the email was encrypted with the right private key rather than a wrong private key. If it's sent from another server that does not have the correct private DKIM key, it encrypts it with some other DKIM key. When that email would be decrypted, the results of the decryption, when comparing it with the relevant data of the original email, would not match. The results of the decryption would be just gobsmack. It would be just googly dog. It should be nonsense. So that's a way receiving servers can determine whether the email was sent by who it's claiming to be or by someone authorized by the owner of that domain or not. And then there's a DMARC policy. DMARC policy tells the receiving servers what to do when SPF and DKIM checks fail. So when you're starting off, you might want to tread carefully. You might want to implement SPF and DKIM records, but tell the receiving servers that, hey, if the SPF and DKIM checks fail, then don't do anything. Just report to me, because I'm in my initial days of setting this up. I want to know how many emails are failing these checks so that I'd ensure that every server that is sending emails on my behalf has its SPF record added and has the right DKIM encryption implemented with the right DKIM public key published in the DNS. So you can just be informed of any failures of SPF and DKIM. Once you've sent for a few days and checked that there are no longer any SPF and DKIM failures, then you might tell the receiving servers in the DMARC policy that, hey, if any emails from my domain fail SPF and DKIM check, then quarantine them. Quarantine is essentially add them to spam. And then eventually, if you want to enforce SPF and DKIM at the strictest level, then you can have a DMARC policy of reject. In that case, the receiving server is being told by you that if you receive any email from my domain and it fails the SPF and DKIM record checks based on what I published on DNS, then don't even accept that email in spam. Just reject it outright. So that means you have enforced the correct measures that no one else can send emails pretending to be you. That means you're a legitimate sender who's concerned about their reputation, who is concerned about ensuring that no one spams pretending to be you, no one cheats others pretending to be you. And then an extremely important record that some people who use a separate domain for their bulk emails and a separate domain for their website, because to some, it occurs to them that, hey, we don't want to ruin the reputation of our primary email and our primary domain when it comes to promotional emails. So we want to use our primary domain only for transactional emails from our site. And for any promotional emails, we'll use a different domain. Now, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. But at times, what they're not careful about is they only set up sending email records on that domain because they're not actually receiving emails on that domain. They're only using it for bulk sending. So they don't add a valid email receiving record to the DNS, which is MX record. And when a receiving server checks your domain's DNS records and it sees that you're only sending, you have no way to receive emails. That means, firstly, you have no way of getting notified of any issues by email providers. Second, you just seem like someone who's only interested in reaching out, who's not interested in on that domain at least. So that's a telltale sign of a spammer, even if you haven't thought of actually spamming. That's a telltale sign of a spammer. So you want to avoid that. Two more best practices, and then we'll wrap this session up. We'll cover the rest in the next session because I think we'll need at least as much time as today's session to cover the next session as well. Ensure that an A record exists. That means an A record means that that domain actually has a website published to it or a server assigned to it, where like when someone enters that domain in the web browser, it sends them to an IP address. So that's a good sign that you have a website, you're legit. I mean, it's not a guarantee that you're legit, but all of these individual matrices, they might not mean much in their own right, but join them together collectively, they end up mattering a lot. So, and that IP address's reverse DNS record, which is called PTR record, which is basically when you look up the IP address, what domain name it gives you in DNS. If those two match, if the A record's IP address and the IP address's pointer record pointing to the domain are the same, that means, if the domain's A record and that IP at A record's reverse DNS record are matched in reverse, like the domain points to the IP and the IP points to the same domain, that is another sign of legitimacy. And lastly, monitor blacklists to ensure that your server is safe. That is an ongoing practice that is relevant once you actually start sending emails. If you just search for a list of email blacklist providers on Google, you'll find a huge list, and you can see how your domain is listed on those blacklists. So I think we've pretty much covered half.
Well, that was extensive. I just got a couple of quick questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up, this show. That looked quite, that was quite extensive. That was quite a lot of information. But my observation, and it's only my observation, is that my inbox, with what Europe has installed around privacy, what California has recently done. But when it comes to my inbox, I seem to be getting more and more unsolicited email being sent to me, not less. Is that a general trend, or is it just my particular? Because obviously I do a lot of podcasting, I do a lot of videos, I use video and podcasting to promote my business. So I'm out in the public eye a lot. But is that a general trend that people are getting more and more? And if that is the case, why haven't these regulations actually worked? I presume their main objective was to reduce the amount of spam email people were getting.
Well, if you compare the amount of spam we get now to the amount of spam we used to get like a decade back or a couple of decades back in the early days of email when there were very few of these regulations, there's a huge difference. I remember from back in the MSN days, the Hotmail era, for every one legitimate email, I would get like 100 illegitimate emails back in the day.
Wow.
Like the 90s. And the initial days of Gmail, Gmail just basically revolutionized by their extremely intelligent spam detection system. They revolutionized the entire email landscape in terms of spam. But hey, as these email receiving servers and these blacklist providers get smarter. Spammers also try to circumvent them, and many times they succeed, but they only succeed till the point when the latest practice that they had been using gets banned as well. It gets detected and it gets banned as well. So I wouldn't exactly say spam is increasing. You and I, people like us, would see it a lot more now because our email addresses are very easy to harvest.
Yeah.
But for the average Joe, or for the average business owner, over the past decade or so, spam has reduced substantially, is what I believe.
Right. I thought that might be the
personally
case because
noticed.
I did take in that my email is out there a lot. You know,
Yes. And
it's
also,
yeah.
yeah. Also for other businesses that I have interests in, I have email addresses of those businesses as well, and a non-profit of which I'm a part. I barely ever receive any spam on those because they're not out there and they're not easy to harvest. I haven't spoken about those email addresses. I haven't published them. The only way others receive those are on my business cards for those business concerns when I hand them over to someone at an event generally. So there you go.
Right. The other last question, I'm surmising this. I'm surmising those in the black area of this industry. I would imagine. I know that there's only half a dozen backbone that have the server network, and if you get on the blacklist, but I'm surmising that there's a whole industry that have servers that are outside of Europe and outside of North America, and I would imagine that they have automatic IP switching and other technology setups to evade the backbone that are sending out lists and you have to contact these people if you want to do the black hat version of everything we've said. I'm only inducing that because of my years in the internet industry. Am I correct about that?
You are correct. You are correct. And that goes for pretty much any illegal or, well, illegal is relative, illegitimate activity, unethical, immoral, unfair activity that it gets to concentrate in regions with little jurisdiction doing anything about it. But eventually, over time, with globalization, with more and more awareness, I mean, there were countries that were hubs of a lot of online fraud initiating through email.
Yeah, but am I correct
But
am I correct that there is only about half a dozen backbone email providers, and I would imagine that these black providers are always in a constant cat and mouse technology fight with these backbone. Yeah. Am I correct about that?
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I think we covered a lot. I think it's been really fantastic value. So, Haroon, what's the best way for people to find out about you and maybe contact you for consultation?
They can reach me at my website, hqraja.com. That's Haroon Q Raja. So hqraja.com. And there's a contact form over there they can use, or they can just email me at hello@hqraja.com.
Right, that's why his emails harvest so much. All that information will be in the video notes underneath, folks. I will make sure it's all there. Haroon's been very generous. We plan to do these twice a month around 12 p.m. Noon Pacific Standard Time. We will promote it on Twitter and it will be up on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. Please join us with any questions you might have. We'd love to answer them live. We haven't had any questions on this episode, but hopefully we'll get more people coming on the show with their questions. That would be fantastic. And we'll see you next time, folks. Thanks a lot. Bye.